Welcome to another episode of Universe Unveiled. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most intriguing mysteries in our solar system, the red planet that may have once been a vibrant blue world teeming with life. Our special guest is the award-winning documentary filmmaker, director, editor, and Mars Disclosure journalist, Brian Cory Dobbs. Brian is the creative force behind the groundbreaking film Blue Planet Red, which presents compelling evidence drawn from NASA imagery for ancient water flows, microbial life, fossils, pyramid-like structures, ruins, and the cataclysmic events that may have transformed Mars from a life-sustaining world into the barren desert we see today.
Brian has been a tireless voice in the Mars anomalies community, collaborating with researchers like our very own co-host, Sarah, on the Mars Disclosure panel alongside Jean Ward, members of IFNP, and people from the multiverse. Shout out, Dave. His work continues to spark important conversations about what NASA's data might truly be showing us and what questions we should be asking next. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here to talk about Blue Planet Red, your journey into Mars Disclosure, and the growing stack of evidence that Mars may have once been a living, breathing world just like ours. Thanks for coming.
Wow, that's a heck of an intro. Thank you. That was awesome. Love
We
it.
try.
Yeah.
Love it.
We're so
Yeah,
glad to have you on, and we can
Mhm.
start from like the beginning of the whole Mars, because this has blown up, Brian. Like, this is colossal research that you're doing, and it's so
Mhm.
important that it be disseminated and spread and bring everyone up to speed. So that's, as you put it yourself, Mars 101 the other day. So if you want to start from the beginning, that would be fantastic.
Man, let me tell you, it's so exciting to be here tonight with you guys to talk about this. I'm very pleased with the recent attention that this stuff has been getting, thanks
Mhm.
to you guys and other people like we've been hanging out with recently and all the stuff in the news. I mean, this is encouraging because I think the reason I work on this is because I think it's one of the most important stories that very few people have any awareness of. And where do we start? It is well, I think what's important for the audience to know is that if you want to talk about Mars, you can go find anybody to go talk about Mars. Okay, there's plenty of people to go talk about Mars. But if you want to talk about Mars Disclosure, that's something very specific because I get sometimes I get criticism like, why didn't you include NASA in the film or anybody else to talk about the other perspectives on things? I'm like, well, first of all, I asked. Okay, they said no.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
JPL said no.
Of course they
Lawrence
did.
Livermore said no. NATO said no. Everybody said no.
NATO. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't
uh,
believe they responded.
you know, I tried.
Yeah.
But what are they going to say anyway? Even if I got them on camera, they're going to say what everyone already knows. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I really need is it really my responsibility to educate the people on what they already know about the planet Mars? It's red. It's a desert
Right.
wasteland. The end.
Yeah.
And NASA's going to say we're looking for life. That's it, right? Any anomaly that comes up on Mars can be explained away with geology.
Mm-hmm.
Period. The end. That's it. And that has been the case for 50 years.
For always. Yeah.
Yeah, people are just distrustful of them in general. So, I mean, I would think that I don't know, you kind of want it for the record though, but I would think that their opinions just kind of
I have to
null
chuckle.
at this
Sarah
point.
and I have a little joke on the news segment because anytime any news about Mars comes up, Sarah generally covers it. And we have a little running joke about how many times we've found life on Mars. And then you just never hear about it
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I know.
And
So, okay. I think it's necessary to contextualize because, like, right, who the hell is this guy talking about Mars, right?
Mhm.
Why is he making such a big deal about it? Well, I think if anyone looked at what I looked at
Mhm.
and felt like, more people should be aware of it, like they would do something about it. I'm a doer. I need to do something. I need to keep busy. You guys know what it's like, right? Be
Yep.
productive.
Yep. Yep.
And we're curious individuals. We just want to know more. So what I'm focusing on is the other story about Mars that most people have no awareness of. But this is a story put together with 50 years of accumulated evidence given to us by NASA.
Mm.
I don't see things in terms of black and white. There's NASA is a great agency. I think I actually do think they have, the Twitterverse I'm not sure if that's representative of the rest of the world. I think most people have a good opinion about NASA. NASA does all these wonderful things. They do amazing feats of engineering with JPL, sending landers, rovers,
Mm.
telescopes, furthering our understanding. They give us these cool space pictures. So it's like I think NASA is well regarded,
I think
and
you're right.
rockets are
Yeah.
cool, man. Like in general, like just the folks. If you go out and talk about
Right.
NASA, it's not getting. NASA has done a wonderful job actually discovering a lot of stuff. As it relates to Mars, they've made 50 years of discoveries that they just don't talk about. And that leaves an opportunity for someone like me to come along and talk about it. I'm not the only one.
Mm.
Before there was
No.
Brian, there were other people doing this. Fortunately, we live in the world of social media, and we can do these sorts of things, and information can spread quickly.
Mhm.
And we have the benefit of crowdsourcing efforts and things of that nature. We meet people like John Ward and the other independent researchers. And I guess that's the other thing too. I don't consider myself a researcher. I don't really spend my time researching, although like maybe here or there I might go digging a little bit, see what I can find, but I don't do it in my spare time. I just sort of do it to vet things. It's really what I have determined is that there's no shortage of compelling data as it relates to this topic. It's just there just seems to be an underwhelming effort in the area of public relations. NASA doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff. So what do? Well, that leaves the opportunity for these researchers to find stuff and talk about it, but because they're not affiliated with NASA, no one wants to take them seriously. That's kind of
Right.
unfortunately how things work. So, I don't know how much about Mars you guys already know. I went on to the Matt Bell podcast, and I went through the whole thing. There was 2 hours of that interview that didn't get aired because
Oh,
you
go
know
away.
uh
Wow. That's a long
well
time.
You really went all out with that one.
Wow.
yeah, we did the morning, we broke for lunch, and then we did an afternoon
Oh my
relative
goodness.
to pyramids on Mars. Microbes isn't quite as sexy, so
Mm.
we've got a wide range of stuff we could talk about. I sort of want to tailor this to what you guys are interested in most, because I don't want to bore you, because there's a ton of stuff here. And my my default setting when it comes to communicating all this stuff to other people is assuming that they're uninitiated. They have never heard any of this stuff before. And what do they know about the planet? Nothing. It's red, and NASA's looking for life, and maybe it's got water. I don't really know. NASA keeps saying they find water. So it's like that's where I'm starting from. So if I'm going to get to pyramids and
Sure.
catastrophes, I want to start with the simple, what people know, and then slowly baby step them towards the more crazy stuff. It's not
I would
actually
say
crazy, but you know what I
I
mean.
would say probably Sarah and I have well, speaking for myself, I have, rudimentary understanding. I've always been an avid space news reader, keep up. I see things from different places, not just NASA. One question I do have, why do you think NASA? is just like creating a filing cabinet of this information instead of presenting it in any way or asking questions or, you know, actively working on it. I mean, I have my theories, but I'd love to know what you think.
Well, I mean, you guys know how it is with institutions. They're just really reluctant to address the most obvious questions that everyone has. Like, just look at look how much attention the Egyptian pyramids get, right?
Sure.
Okay, Egypt, we're not buying this tomb thing anymore. Give it up. Okay,
Right?
we gotta.
It's brutal.
I think Egypt is. I think the Egyptians are scared we're going to take away their culture if we can't if we're no
Like,
longer
you're
gonna
still
say
gonna
that the
sell
Egyptians.
souvenirs.
I know, people are
You
still
know
gonna
what I mean?
come,
Like,
right?
for sure. More people will probably
So
come if we just talk about the truth of things. Yeah.
NASA's an
Wh-
institution, and they are not in the business of disclosure. They're in the business of
Right.
engineering and study. They just don't wanna talk about these crazy things because that's not what their reputation is based on.
Sure.
Well, they need
I
to be
also
taken seriously at all cost, and so they're so careful about the claims that they make, and I understand that too. Without credibility, they have nothing. So there's that.
sure, I
They're
also
they're
wonder if there's, like, a funding aspect,
That
right?
exactly.
Like, every institution has to worry about its funding, so I would just assume that that's gotta be under that umbrella somewhere.
Yeah, um, if if we're talking about pyramids on Mars, it's hard for people to take you seriously,
Mhm.
even if the photos show exactly what these things are. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, what scientist is gonna stick his neck out academically, uh, plant his flag on that hill,
Mhm.
and then not get funding or whatever? So there have been 2 PR snafus that NASA got themselves into over the past 50 years, that sort of also makes them reluctant to make any bold claims about anything. So they just want to play it safe. Um, I guess just right off the bat, let me just say, you tell me what you want to get into detail with, but for the listeners who this is new for, NASA has discovered microbial life on Mars, not just once, but multiple
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
Okay. Starting in 1976. Now we can talk about why they say the results are ambiguous. Okay. But, we sort of have to walk through that. They have discovered evidence for fossils. In a court of law, photographs can be used as evidence. You guys remember O.J. Simpson and the bloody glove? Like it's like simple as
I
that.
Yeah.
do.
Photographs are evidence, right?
Yep. Yep.
There's water on Mars. And that's a funny thing. I don't think most people know that there's water on Mars. Now, it's mostly in the form of ice, but
Mhm.
that's okay. All right.
Right.
And we knew that in 1976. So here we are 50 years later, and there's still people who don't know. Now, I don't blame the people. I blame NASA for not educating the people well enough on this. And especially these headlines that come out, oh, NASA found water on Mars. Like, we're still, guys, this is yesterday's news. This is last century's news. Why are we still having headlines about this as
Mhm.
if it's rediscovered? I don't get it. Okay. But that's where NASA
Right.
like teases with. Okay. There is microbial life, there are fossils. We can talk about panspermia. We should definitely talk about panspermia. There's a lot that I don't think people are aware of.
Yep.
And then there are these funny looking things that just don't appear to be rocks. And I'm just going to call them artifacts. And they come in
Sure.
all shapes and sizes.
Sure.
There are structures, there are ruins, there are pyramids, and then there's the catastrophe side of things. So all along that spectrum, there's a deep dive in each one of those. Just wanted to throw that out there as a table of contents.
So what was the first anomaly, or what was that thing that grabbed you and you were just like, "Okay, I'm gonna make this my life's work right now and there needs to be a documentary about it," and what was the thing that you saw and you were like, "Well,
Damn.
clearly there was life." Yeah. What was that damn moment for you?
I blame Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock.
It's always that
The
guy's fault.
usual
Poor guy.
suspect.
It's Graham Hancock's fault. Yeah.
It
Fair
is,
enough.
because little do people know this, he actually wrote a book on Mars
Mm-hmm.
talking about all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my mind. He's talking about the biology experiments from the Viking mission in the 70s that NASA sent there. He's
Mm-hmm.
talking about photographs, which not only showed this thing that looks like a face, but pyramids. And I'm like, oh, what? I never heard that before.
Right?
Yeah.
Pyramids on Mars, and they have photographs of this? Why haven't? And that just gave me this deeply unsettled feeling in my gut. Like, if that's true,
Mm-hmm.
if it's true that there are pyramids on Mars,
Where's all the people?
I know exactly,
Yeah.
right? And that alone just left me deeply unsettled. And then it got worse when I started looking into John Brandenburg's work, which talks about the demise of the planet. And after I read his book, I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I found his email and I said, I'm thinking about I was looking around, I was doing all this research, and I'm like, somebody surely must have done a documentary about this. Like, there's all this
Right.
stuff. Somebody must have done it. Couldn't find anything. You know, the best you're going to get is an Ancient Aliens episode on a one-off anomaly here or there. But all in the same spot, nothing. So I'm like, okay, Brian, I was having this internal dialogue, like, you're thinking about making it? I had done short films. I had never done a feature length, because to do this right means you got to travel, you got to go meet people. It's going to be a lot of work, because that's the main problem. If all this evidence and research has already been published and yet people don't know about it, it's the problem in presentation. So I felt like my role here is just to really elevate the presentation. That's where I felt like I could contribute, is because I have a background in public relations and digital media. So I'm like, you know, and I love storytelling. Let's do something with that. Let's shine a spotlight on all this stuff that just hasn't got the recognition it deserves. So I emailed Brandenburg and I said, if this guy emails me back,
I'm doing it.
Then we're doing it. And on New Year's Day, 2023, I got an email back from Brandenburg, and I'm like, shit, now I got to do this. So, all right, you know, I guess we're doing
locked
it.
In.
You know, and then that brings us here to today.
Mm-hmm. How long were you filming?
Yeah, I filmed throughout 2023. I started in March filming. I did 2 months of prep work, and and the film was finished by November of that year.
Okay.
I had the great fortune of meeting one of these Mars researchers who's in England. His name is Michael Craig. He's a bit shy, but you know, I'm going to try to bring him back into the fold recently. He's an author, but he's been working on Mars, and he's been covering this stuff for 2 decades. And so I met with him, and I'm like, you know, I started asking him questions because I found his website. He has a whole website called secretmars.com showing all these cool anomalies and things like that.
Cool.
And I started Zooming with every week, and I'm like, hey, man, you know, I'm thinking about doing this documentary. Do you want to partner up on this? You could produce it. You know, we can collaborate. So we got together every week on Zoom. Never met the guy in person, but he's my partner in this, and he's just, you know, he doesn't really like the spotlight so much. But, you know, I learned everything there is to know. Rather, I learned everything I know from him. So one of these days, I hope to reintroduce him to everybody, because, you know, I love his accent, number one. But number two, he's a really smart guy, and he could speak a lot about this stuff too. And so we worked together. We identified the people we wanted to interview. We worked on what the interview questions were going to be. You know, I don't like winging it. You know, I like just scripting everything out, going there. I want to make good use of the time. Sometimes you guys might have seen this. Sometimes you'll find somebody to interview and they really don't know how to give A concise answer, B, an answer that makes any sense because they're too smart, don't know how to boil it down into layman's terms. So,
Right.
you know,
None
you
of that
gotta know how
ever
to work with
happens.
it. So,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a whole
How has it
process,
been
right?
with
Go ahead, Sarah.
how has it been with Ivy Loeb? Like, how he a cool dude or like how?
yeah, I mean, Avi as a person is a very gracious guy. I got to go to his house,
Mhm.
and he's
Yeah.
not shy. He loves all the media attention. He'll say yes to any interview. If you guys email him, he'll say yes. Okay, you
Wow.
know, I show up. He's giving me water and chips. You know, just
Some
wanted.
chips.
I rearranged his
Little
dining
snack.
room and interviewed him in his dining room. So a very gracious person.
Mhm.
Avi professionally, well, he does great work. I'm happy that he's part of academia and is taking this UFO stuff seriously. He knows enough about Mars where we could talk about it. I don't really think he's, aside from just recently with this whole cylinder thing, like I
Mhm.
really don't think he's clued into all this stuff. So but he does know some of the history, and I wanted him to speak about you know, NASA's reluctance to revisit these life test results and how
Sure.
they're just, they sent biology tests there in 76 and they have not sent anything since. So we can talk about that. But you know, Avi, you know, I'm happy that he's interested in this stuff, but you know, I think he still needs to know a little bit more about what Mars disclosure, what the Mars disclosure community has actually found. I don't think he quite knows the extent of it, and that's the thing. I don't think Graham Hancock does either because his book came out in the late '90s, I think,
Right.
and we've had decades of higher resolution
Right.
photographs
Yeah.
and independent researchers looking at this stuff. So ultimately, I want to go back to Graham and be like, Graham, you got to take a look at this stuff,
Look at
man.
this again. Like a lot of stuff has popped off since the 90s, right? So,
Yep.
Right, much better photographs.
like the media, the availability of media has gone through the roof. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Obviously.
Mhm. I mean,
Yep.
for the better and for the worse, if you ask me. But yeah.
So what about these biologics? Like, what can you walk us through that?
God, I would love to.
Mhm.
This year is the 50th anniversary of the Viking mission.
Mhm.
Now, this was 1976. A lot of people today have never heard of the Viking mission. It was an ambitious mission, really ambitious, one of the most remarkable feats of engineering NASA's ever done. And they did this back in the 70s. What they did was they sent the Viking 1 and Viking 2 to Mars. Each one of them had a lander that landed on the planet and an orbiter. So there was a Viking 1 orbiter,
Mhm.
Viking 1 lander, Viking 2 orbiter, Viking 2 lander. It all worked flawlessly back in the 70s. This is incredible stuff. They started imaging the surface. They sent down these landers to get soil samples. NASA were cowboys back then, okay?
Mhm.
Their budget was insane. And I do think if they embraced disclosure, their budget would go up tremendously because everyone would be like, holy
Agreed.
smokes, we got to go there. Right.
Agreed.
So it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, and they take atmospheric measurements. They just start measuring the planet. We're getting actual data, and they got a lot of good data. And they had equipped on both landers 3 different biology experiments.
Mhm.
Okay. And the long and short of it is each one of them with each lander on opposite sides of the planet, what they were testing for were signs of microbial activity. They were testing for metabolism and respiration. Okay. That's what these things were equipped to detect. And every single one of these detected just that.
Ding, 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 ding.
One of them in particular is called the labeled release experiment. These scientists and their names, I don't know why they come up with these things, these names. It's a very simple test. You scoop up some dirt you feed it some nutrient solution, and you just wait to see if it produces any gas. Okay?
Mhm.
Microbes eat the food, and they produce gas. It is a very simple experiment designed by this guy, Dr. Gil Levin. Now, Dr. Gil Levin arguably discovered life on Mars with this test because his test was run first. NASA didn't come up with this experiment. Dr. Gil Levin was a sanitation engineer, and he had to invent a way to try to figure out if there's any pathogens in the water and the soil when he's is doing his work. He's got
Mhm.
a bachelor's, master's, and a PhD in sanitation engineering. Okay, so he designed this little gizmo, and it ran over 4,000 times here on Earth, and it never produced a false positive nor false negative. Now, I don't know what you guys think about that, but in my book, that's a perfectly designed test.
It's
And what
pretty
does NASA
pretty
like to
good.
send? NASA likes to send stuff that works.
Yeah.
All right, mission critical. They need to know it's going to work. So at a cocktail party, he goes up to the administrator of NASA at the time, and he's like, "Hey, I hear you guys are going to Mars. Are you going to be looking for life there?" He's like, "As a matter of fact, we are." So he's like, "Well, perfect, because I got just the thing for you." So he pitched his idea to NASA. Okay. And they said, yes, come on board. And Dr. Gil Levin hired Dr. Patricia Ann Stratt, and the two of them adapted this experiment to fit inside the Viking lander, okay, with two other experiments. All right. And at two different landing sites, it scoops up soil, feeds it nutrient solution, and gas is produced. It does exactly what it's designed to do. And this means that microbes are eating the food and
Mhm.
metabolizing it. So, and then they did a control where they heated the sample to 160 degrees and then fed it food again just to see if it would do it. And it didn't. It didn't have a response, meaning it killed all the microbes in there, so they didn't
Sure.
eat the food. Okay, so they had these control experiments. Now, why didn't they just pop the champagne and say we found life on Mars? Is
It's a
the
great
question.
question. That's a great question.
And the answer is, so I remember I said there's three biology tests,
Mhm.
experiments that they sent, okay? And they all worked. I can get into
Mhm.
the details of the other ones, but they're not as exciting. There was an entirely different test. It's a long name, gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, the GCMS test. Its sole purpose was to test the dirt to see if
Mhm.
it had any organic material in it.
Right.
Okay? For people who don't know, soil is what we refer to as dirt with organic material. Okay?
Mhm.
Regolith has no organic material, right? What is organic material? It's compost. It's when leaves decay. It's all the biology that has died and just becomes, you know,
Carbon
that
based.
that
Yeah.
rich. Yeah. Okay. So this test did not find any organics in the dirt. So NASA was confused by this. They say, well, how can we have life but no organics? So in 1976, they said, well, these did test positive for life, but overall, the test results are inconclusive. They were just perplexed by this. Now, I guess you say you can give it to them because if they're organic tested and find anything, then that's odd. How do you have life without organics?
Sure.
Now,
But that's not
the
something I
tragic
put
part of
on the shelf. That's something that I put a bookmark in. Do you know what I mean? I'm not done with that
Mhm,
book. It's not going back on the shelf. I'm not done reading it.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The tragic part to this is that this GCMS organics test, before they sent anything to Mars, they actually sent it all to Antarctica to test down there. Okay.
Okay.
And the soil of Antarctica has life in it, which these things found. The soil of Antarctica has organic material in it,
Sure.
but that GCMS experiment could not find organic material in the soil of Antarctica.
Okay.
They knew this, but they sent it to Mars anyway. And then they let that test determine the entire narrative for not only the biology experiments, but for the rest, the 50 years of astrobiological study on that planet. Okay. So
I'm very
they
disappointed.
sent a faulty test to Mars.
Yeah.
Many years later, we start sending these cute little rovers there, and the Curiosity rover gets a bunch of attention still. It found the organics in the soil. So had they found the organics back in 1976, we wouldn't have had 50 years of NASA saying that test results are inconclusive. It would have supported the live test results, and they would
Sure.
have said, we found life on Mars. Now, they forgot to revisit the results after finding the organics.
Do you think that there is like why would they send a faulty test first of all, and then upon revisiting and getting new data, do you think that contradictory data coming back with Curiosity, is it just a case of them not wanting to admit that they were wrong, or that
Yes. And I should
that's
clarify,
that's
when I
too
say
much for me.
faulty,
That's too much
that
for
that's
me.
the experiment worked. The
Yeah,
organics experiment, it performed.
sure.
Let me clarify here. It
In an
was
extreme
not
environment, it didn't though. Yeah.
it was not sensitive enough to actually detect the organics it was looking for. Parts per
Sure.
million. It just wasn't sensitive enough. And technology improved, so then when we started sending these rovers there
Sure.
that had more sensitive material, they found the organics. But had they found them in 1976, they would have popped the champagne.
Of course.
So, yes, what do we do? Oh, no, we found the organics with the Curiosity rover. Here's the missing organics we've been looking for this whole time. They didn't revisit the original results. And what makes it even worse is that they have not sent any more biology experiments to Mars since. Now, they keep telling us they're looking for life, but they're actually not. They've changed it a little bit. It used to be we're looking for life,
Mhm.
follow the water. But now they're looking for signs of ancient life. Okay.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
this lets them play in the geology a little
Sure.
bit more in that sandbox. Okay. They had Sending biology experiments to Mars would be so stupid simple to do. It's just there's not the political courage to do it. They don't. NASA has a 50-year narrative that there's no life on Mars.
Mhm.
Now imagine if they had to say, "Oh, we were wrong." But that's exactly, and this is not Brian Dobbs who has come to this conclusion here, okay? I actually spoke with this is the part that, okay, people think that I'm the one who's making these claims. I'm not making these claims, okay? Much more qualified people, okay? And in particular, Dr. Stephen Benner, who's an award-winning biochemist
Hmm.
down in Florida, and I've interviewed him, talk about him. He's the one who actually went through all of the Viking mission logs in excruciating detail, like sitting on the floor at college or something back in the 80s. He knows these Viking life tests inside and out better than anybody on the planet, and he's been pushing a lot of, in he's affiliated loosely with NASA. He's not part of NASA proper, but he knows everybody in there. They know him, and he's a well-respected scientist. He's not considered one of these outside fringe guys.
Sure.
And he's one of the very few voices pushing back against this narrative in the astrobiology community. So he's got blogs and research papers saying, guys, you all are wrong about this. We have generations of astrobiologists now who know
Yeah.
nothing about these biology experiments. They don't know the history, and they just accept NASA's narrative. I don't want to sound like a
Huh.
conspiracy nut here, but this is what's happening. They just don't understand this history. And so he's trying to change that, and I'm trying to amplify what he's saying. So NASA arguably discovered life on Mars in 1976. And by the way, that's not the only time they've done it.
Sure.
Curiosity rover,
hmm
it found the organic material in the soil. It also found a very particular, a very specific organic substance known as dimethyl sulfide. Okay. Now, most people haven't heard of this. I hadn't heard of this either, but dimethyl sulfide is a biosignature. On Earth, microbes are the only thing that produce it.
Okay.
Active microbial process is the only thing that produces dimethyl sulfide. Where did I learn this? On NASA's website, which is why they regard it as such a strong biosignature. You guys know the James Webb Telescope?
hmm
Okay. It's looking into these exoplanets light years away.
hmm
And you might have seen some headlines, past couple of years saying James Webb Space Telescope finds strong biosignature in atmosphere of exoplanets. You guys heard stuff like this? Yeah, you
Yes.
know what they're looking for?
Absolutely.
That material.
Dimethyl sulfide. They're
Yeah.
looking for the spectroscopic signature of dimethyl sulfide. That makes headline news.
Sure it does.
I'm not hearing anything about it. Look, guys, we found it on Mars. It's in the dirt of Mars. Okay.
And it's like literally
So
next door. It's not.
it's right
Nearby.
there.
Yeah,
Oh,
next
yeah.
door.
Yeah.
In addition to that, Dr. Carol Stoker of NASA, she's still there now. She found through spectroscopy, we were just talking about it, spectroscopy is a well-regarded experimental tool
Mhm.
to figure out what something's made of. Well, she found chlorophyll on Mars.
Oh, okay.
That's kind
This
of damning right there.
this was published in the only thing they ever got was one abstract published in a scientific conference.
Why?
She had plans to publish a full paper,
Uh-huh.
but it didn't ever happen
Why is
because
that now?
it's suspected that she was told not to. Okay, but this was back
I
in
believe that.
2002. I mean, I've got the paper. It's still online. You can go look at it and find it today. It's buried somewhere. But this is why I'm saying multiple lines of evidence. And the last one, photographic evidence of something called rock varnish. Have you guys heard of rock varnish?
No.
No.
Most people haven't. Rock varnish, they also call it desert varnish. If you go out in the desert, some of these rocks out in the desert have this black coating on them. It's a
Okay.
shiny black coating. All right. And sometimes you'll see petroglyphs carved into this black coating, like they're scraping off the black coating to look at the little whatever that is that they
To
carved in there,
reveal
okay?
like the material underneath. Yeah.
Yes, if scraping it off would reveal the actual rock surface, but this black coating is essentially microbes eating manganese and producing this black coating over centuries of time. All right,
Okay.
takes a long time to do this. Well, we have photographs of rock varnish on Mars. Rock varnish is produced by microbes.
Right.
NASA and it's not just, hey, that rock looks black. Dummy, I think
Right.
that looks like rock varnish. No, NASA has published papers on this
Saying that that's in fact what it is.
saying that there is this manganese oxide coating. We don't know how it got there. It can't be life because we've already ruled out the possibility of life on Mars. There is a yet undetermined mechanism that put that rock varnish on that rock there on Mars.
How did that get here? That's like walking past a pasture and wondering how the cow shit got there.
Yeah.
You know
So-
what I mean? Yeah.
NASA's just like this, nothing to see.
Sure.
Yeah. Look
And
over there.
unless, and I got to give credit to Barry D. Gregorio, who is an author, a Mars researcher, an astrobiologist himself. He was just a curious guy back in the 90s who started looking into this Viking stuff.
Mhm.
And he ended up writing an entire book on a lot of this history, which I then, I met with him. I include him in the film, and I've interviewed him separately for the YouTube channel. He ended up being Gil Levin, the guy who made the labeled release experiment. He ended up being Gil Levin's biographer. So he's got a book called Mars the Living Planet, which details the entire history here. It reads like a movie. It's such an incredibly well written book. So I got to
Cool.
credit these guys who have been covering this stuff for decades, who are now sort of handing the torch over because
Mhm.
they're getting up there in age. And if they haven't been cataloging this stuff for so many years, I wouldn't know any of
Then
this
nobody would
stuff.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I'm really happy when you guys take interest in this, because it's like, look, I can't be the only guy talking about this. I want everybody talking about this because there's a lot of history. There's 50 years of history that most people are completely unaware of.
Yeah. And
That's
like
one of
you
our goals is to preserve knowledge so that it
yes.
can be passed down in a meaningful way to relevant parties. So like we're
That's
all
a
over
whole
it. Like
yeah, that's the whole point
we're
of the
right there with
institute.
you.
Yeah. Collecting, literally generations of collected research and information from all different places and, keeping it because it's being lost. Like you said, it struck me a little bit when you said that all the newer, younger researchers that actually and scientists that actually work at NASA are like, "What?" Like, they have no idea about what happened, and they have no reason to understand that the narrative that has come forward and was put in place before they ever arrived is erroneous, right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you guys remember the whole the three-sided pyramid thing that went viral a couple weeks ago?
yes.
I don't know if you guys saw
Of
this, but there
course.
was News Nation brought on a guy by the name of Dr. Pascal Lee, who is a planetary geologist, and they
Okay.
asked him what he thought of this pyramid. He says, "I don't think it looks like a pyramid. It's not perfect." Right? He says it's a bit rounded. I don't think it looks like a pyramid. Anyway, I got into a discussion last year with this guy online because
Mhm.
he was doing this whole there's no life on Mars. There's no evidence whatsoever of microbial life on Mars. I'm like, well, actually, Dr. Lee, there is. Do you know Dr. Stephen Benner? Do you know the
Mm.
Viking life
Mhm.
test? Do you know the blah, 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 blah? And then I zoomed with him and I told him everything I just told you.
Right?
And still to this day, even he was on News Nation saying there's absolutely no evidence. Now, I don't know what you call that. Is that just ignorance? Is it just afraid to getting fired? I don't know, but
Is it
it,
see, I think I hate to beat a horse dead that's just rotten in the corner forever, but this is the case in my experience over and over again. Sarah and I have encountered it quite a bit together as we've done this podcast. I'm currently a student in post secondary education. I am an avid reader, have been for a long, long time. And this is not my first go through university. So I have a lot of experience in academia. And it's just the straight up audacity of people to just say, "Yeah, that's not what it is." It's like they cannot say, "Okay, just a second, let's back it up here," because what I thought I knew might not actually be true. Like, it just floors me how you come into this over and over and over and over again, and it's like hitting a brick wall every time, you know? It just can
yes.
we not just say
And
that the possibility of what you think you knew is it could be something else, man. I don't know.
I would hate to be in that position though, to have to try to adapt to if my entire career was based off of this narrative and now it all
Sure,
ends up to be wrong.
sure.
People scientists are people. They're
Of
reluctant to
course,
change. They're reluctant to admit that they're wrong.
of course.
God, I would hate to be put in that position,
That
man.
it's just
Because
too
when
much though at some point, don't you think? I do. Like, I understand, I have empathy. I have a strong sense of empathy for people. But
Mhm.
in the face of evidence and in the face of kind of, irrefutable possibility, I feel like it's your duty as the people who um, are nurturing, especially academics, nurturing the next generations of people to have full disclosure. This is the accepted theory, but there's also this evidence. Like, why can't we just even do that? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if he would be a little bit more fair with the analysis and at least
Right.
entertain that a little bit more publicly, I wouldn't
Sure.
be so harsh in my criticism against these people. But I've talked to too many
Understandable.
of these biologists who who don't know any of this stuff,
Mhm.
and or worse is that even after hearing it, they still ignore it. So I
That's
don't
a
know.
lot.
That just it fires me up. We're talking about life on Mars.
Yeah, it's not, it's extremely significant. Extremely significant, right?
Imagine if
And
NASA. Imagine if NASA
that's
said
where
tomorrow we
people
discovered life on Mars. The world would go nuts.
Of course they would.
exactly.
Of course they would. Which I
Yeah.
always I get a little chuckle every time Elon Musk just deadpans, "Yeah, we're going to Mars." Like, he's just so, he's just so, confident in himself and deadpan about everything, and he just announces things, and I mean, I have to hand it to the guy. Often, he gets to where he says he's going, so if he says he wants to go to
Exactly.
Mars, and people just accept that. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
to float the
Yeah.
idea that perhaps there was already life on Mars, why were they there? Where did they go? Is that us? Did we go there? What, you know what I mean? Don't you want to know? Wouldn't you want
But
to
Mhm.
a
know?
lot of the scientists though, and the powers that be, um, the way they talk about the accepted narrative on it, it reads like a script. You know, I haven't been
Sure.
doing this for very long, but I know a script when I see one. You know, we get a script from the man all the time.
hmm
Everyone recognizes the script, and that's the way that it reads. You know, whenever someone shows up and says, "Yeah, there's absolutely no evidence for that," and blah 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 blah, and it never changes, and it's because they're basically reading it, and whether that script was, and I hate to be this person, but somebody's got to do it. You know,
Mhm.
maybe somebody told them to say that. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just can't
Maybe.
accept that it's not what they think, and that's their life's work, and that's their baby. I get that too, but I mean,
Mhm.
I
Right.
wonder who's telling who to say what sometimes, because sometimes it's just a little too obvious, you know?
Right. I mean, you guys know this. I mean, just again, just go back to Egypt for a second. Like, there's still people pushing the tomb thing with these pyramids.
Brutal,
I'm
right?
on team. I'm on team Land of Chem. Jeffrey Drum. You guys know his work.
Sure. Yeah. I do know his
Yeah, I mean
work.
that obviously that makes a whole lot of sense to me. I think that guy's brilliant. But anyway, so the microbial stuff. What I just got done telling you was not sexy enough for the Matt Bell podcast. You wanted to go right to pyramid. I think it's awesome to talk about
I
this
think
stuff.
that is for me, I'm very evidence driven, and so that's very foundational evidence. You know, I come previously from a medical background, so um, any kind of life, and even especially in its tiniest form, is that's where we all come from, people. So, I mean, that's very significant to me.
Yeah, and that's where the story starts.
Sure. And long after everything else has been, I mean, you can throw any number of theories, cataclysmically destroyed. That's the little pieces that are going to be left over to prove that there was something or someone, or something there.
Right. And then if you just use common sense,
hmm
where I'm asking you guys, I want you to tell me, where does where can you find microbes?
And soil everywhere. They're all around
Yeah.
us, and they're in the soil. Yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah,
They're on everything. They're on our bodies, they're in our bodies, they're on
yeah,
all this stuff.
yeah.
You even find them in deep in the crust of the earth. You
hmm
find them in the hydrothermal vents, you find them high in the atmosphere floating
Deep in
around.
the oceans, up,
Deep in the oceans,
in the
Extremophiles.
air.
you in the air, you find them directly in nuclear waste.
hmm
And some of them can live directly in ice, not hibernate, but actually live. They have a natural
Yes,
antifreeze. You guys have
yes.
heard this? You
hmm
can just melt the ice around them and they can be fine. They got their own little tiny swimming pool.
Yeah.
So, is it really too hard to imagine that a more hardy version of a microbe could be living on Mars where there is a trace of an atmosphere. It's not nearly what Earth's is, but there is something there.
Yes.
Is it really? That's a harsh environment, but is it harsher than directly in nuclear waste? I don't know. That's a hard sell for me. You can
Sure.
fight in
Yeah.
nuclear waste.
I mean, and then coupled with the multitudes of other pieces of evidence, it becomes a very compelling story, right? A theory, because and it's so hard to present it when you, to me, the microbial thing is a big deal because that is the foundation for me. Without proof of microbial life, there's not a lot of, it's difficult to imagine feasibly that anything else was true, or I don't know. That's important to me. So
Yeah, and I think
Matt Beal,
people.
please put out that information that you recorded. Yeah.
I want to
We
clarify
got it.
some.
We'll
I
put
want.
it out.
Oh, I know. Thank you for taking the time to go through this because there's a history here. What and tragically, Dr. Gillivan and Patricia Ann Stratt, who designed this for the Viking lander, they were ridiculed after this because they were saying our
Sure.
test found life. Damn it, listen
Right.
to us. And
Right.
then the rest of
Because
the
He did
community,
did he do an episode of Ancient Aliens about it?
Gillivan probably,
Do you know?
yeah. I mean, he's
Was he an elderly gentleman?
yeah, he died a couple years ago. So
Yeah, he was mad as hell about it too.
I
I
think I
yeah,
remember,
saw
and then
that
it talked
too.
about
Yeah.
the worms and the ice in Antarctica was all in that one episode. I remember now.
Yes.
It was a
yeah.
long time ago, but yep, I recall. He was mad as
So
hell.
there's a 50-year injustice that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, we gotta
Okay.
do it for that guy.
Right, because
Yeah.
he would
Now
have
I'm in touch with
understood
his.
what his test was proving and
Sure.
under
And
what
fortunately,
circumstances that indicates life, y'all. Like, so,
right. All right. So
yeah.
so there's that. But the way I look at Mars right now is simply Mars is a crime scene.
Mm, okay. I like that.
Something happened there. And when you get to a crime scene, you try to figure out what happened. So what do?
Mhm.
You look for evidence.
Yes.
You're not sure what you're going to find, but you just start looking around and seeing what you can find. And
Yeah.
let's talk about this word evidence. Evidence, a lot of people conflate this with proof. They
Mhm.
actually, I use evidence in the strictest legal sense. It is evidence meaning suggestive of, proof meaning conclusive of. Now, with
Sure.
evidence, you can have weak evidence, you can have strong evidence, you can have conclusive evidence, which actually
Yes.
means it turns it into proof. Okay, I would
Yes.
argue that this microbial life stuff is somewhere between conclusive evidence and proof.
It is for me.
That's
Yeah.
my take on it. Um, but beyond just the microbial stuff, we have evidence for fossils. We
That
have
interests me
evidence
also.
for yeah, and let's take a moment though, because we wanted to talk about panspermia, um, and it relates to
Yes.
Mars. The other okay, so NASA got everybody excited back in the 70s. We're going to Mars and we're going to go look for life.
Woo!
And when they said the test results are inconclusive, it was kind of like this deflated balloon, right?
Sure.
Like, so NASA didn't feel great about that. But 20 years later, they decided, okay, well, enough time has passed. We're ready to make another big announcement. Some people might remember the microfossil in the Allen Hills meteorite that got
Mhm.
so much attention that Bill
Mhm.
Clinton talked about it on the White House
Mhm.
lawn. Okay. To this day, you still might find scientists fighting about whether or not this thing was or was not a microfossil. This thing was there was a rock, a meteorite that was discovered in Antarctica in the 80s, and they're really easy to find down there. They're black rocks on type of white snow. They just fall, and there it is. So
Mhm.
NASA sends down teams year after year after years to pick up a bunch of this stuff, and they just find it. It's real easy to find. They find a bunch of these things. So, and then for about 10 years, they were studying this thing, and ultimately in the mid 90s was when they published a paper. Hey, we think we found a microfossil in this rock, and oh, by the way, it came from Mars. Now, the contention is that there's this little worm-like structure that's this famous photograph that worm-like structure is very tiny, arguably too tiny even to be a bacteria. So it's the size of this thing that was really called into question. So you have scientists back and forth fighting about whether or not this thing was actually evidence of a microfossil. Now, most people think, and I was one of them, that this was the only example of microfossils in a meteorite. What I learned making this film was that it's one of dozens.
Okay.
So, and who did I learn this from? I learned this from a guy by the name of Professor Richard Hoover, who just so happened to be the lead astrobiologist at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center.
Okay.
Well, well,
So
well.
that's pretty official.
It's pretty
I
official.
don't know how you get any more official than the lead astrobiologist at NASA. Now, he retired in 2012. He's still with us, but he's in his 80s. Now, he tells me that he personally has found, I go down there to interview him about a fossil that he has some insight on, and we talk about that, and we show that in the film. At lunch, we're done the interview. At lunch, he's like, "Oh yeah, and I discovered microfossils." Because I said, we were talking about the Allen Hills microfossil, and I'm like, well, if you say you discovered some, if there only was a picture, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. I said, if there only was a picture, we could easily, show people, and they would be like, okay, yeah. And he says, huh, and he whips out his iPad and shows it to me right here.
Nice.
And what he showed me in that instant, it was apparent to me, even with my untrained eye, that what he was showing me was a little tiny critter. No question whatsoever.
Okay.
What he was showing me was something called a diatom microfossil. You guys know what diatoms are?
I know what a diatom is, yes.
I know what diatomaceous earth is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ground up diatoms. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Orgueil meteorite, which fell to France in 1864, Professor Hoover cracked it open and took a look at its inside of it under a scanning electron microscope and found diatom microfossils in addition to a dozen other cyanobacteria and other types of microfossils. But the diatom specifically, if you take a look at these photos, if you want, I could pull up an image, but the diatom specifically, it's
There's
not
a share button down there if you do want to screen
I
share anything.
should probably just show you, because rather than me just
Do it.
describe how obvious this is.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let me just do that. Bear with me just one moment while I
No worries.
find this. But diatoms
Absolutely.
specifically are so obvious because they look, life when you see it, right?
Right.
All right. Here we go. Mars images.
I bet that's a big folder.
Yeah, it's growing. Diatoms close up. Okay. All right. Let me share this. Here we go. Boom. Share screen. Let's see. Window. Boom. Here we go. Okay. This is what he shows me.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Are those gills? Like,
That's something.
it's got like a flagellum on the back. Like, is that a flagellum on the back?
What you're seeing is two diatoms kind of right next to each other. And
Yes.
and these there's we have to unpack this, okay? And number one, that was one of many microfossils that he found. Let's see here. 1, 2. Okay. This was also this is a closer look at those things.
Like
They
almost
kinda
like
look
the
like
inside.
it's like ribs or looked like gills, but you can see these little tiny holes. They
Yes.
grind up diatoms because they're so porous, and they make for good filtration. Okay, they use it in beer brewing and swimming pool filters and diatomaceous earth.
Mhm.
Okay, it's just ground up versions of these things. But you can tell looking at that, that's not geology.
No.
That's a
No.
critter.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, okay, well, is that terrestrial contamination? Did the rock land and diatoms jumped in? Okay, is
No.
it? The answer is no, because first of all, it's a fossil. Fossils don't jump.
Right.
It's not on the outside of the rock; it's on the inside of the rock. You had to break it open to get in there, and there's no nitrogen in these things. Now, why is that important? Nitrogen, all living things have nitrogen in them. And after you die, the nitrogen will go away, but it takes a really long time for nitrogen to go away. We're talking thousands or millions of years. Okay. So it proves that this thing has been dead for a very long time. So it's not terrestrial contamination, but that's what everyone wants to say. Oh, that's just terrestrial contamination. So, and research published by Dr. John Brandenburg, who does a lot of different things with Mars, and that's just in his spare time. He's a plasma physicist. But research published by Dr. John Brandenburg says that the Orgueil meteorite that fell in France that had this little critter inside originates from Mars.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, this is a much better example of microfossils than the Allen Hills, where people were saying maybe it is, maybe it isn't. This is clear as day.
Yeah, that's hard to explain away.
And he
I'd be
didn't just
interested in
publish
knowing.
this. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I'd be interested in knowing how he could definitively determine that it was from Mars.
Oh, okay, good question. The way they're able to tell is by the isotopic signature
Okay.
of the rock. So the
All right.
isotopic analysis of these rocks, Brandenburg shows in his paper that it matches the composition of Mars. That's how
Okay.
they can tell that these things are not Earth rocks, because the oxygen isotopes are not terrestrial. They're foreign oxygen isotopes.
Okay.
So they know that it didn't come from Earth. Let's
Right.
see, Richard Hoover. Let's see. Let me see here if I can. Now there's and again, that's just one. Oh, here is for comparison. Can you guys see this now? No. Can you? I gotta change. Stop sharing. Let me. For comparison. Come on. Let's do this. This was the Allen Hills. Maybe you guys remember seeing this photograph, but it's
I
this
have seen this.
worm
Yeah.
like structure. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, that has caused so much contention. I'm arguing that what we just saw is a lot more clear of an example of a microfossil. So why aren't
I
we
would
talking
think.
about that? I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, it's got segments in it and everything, like a Martian earthworm.
Okay. So, and I come to find out, and I interviewed Richard Hoover for the film, and we talk about these diatom microfossils. We talk about a macroscopic fossil, which we can talk about if you want to, but I want to stay on microfossils for just a second. And he then proceeds to tell me that the history of I thought this was the first discovery of a microfossil with
Right.
what they came out with the 90s. As it turns out, no, they have been discovering these things since the 60s.
Oh, okay.
So after the film was done, I had to go back and interview Richard Hoover just on this alone, and it's the longest interview I have of my YouTube channel. It's almost 5 hours long, because he's outlining the history of microfossils discovered since 1961. And we've
Okay.
got photos of these things.
Okay.
And I'm like, how come nobody, like, if you learn that, wouldn't you want to tell everybody else? Like, how
Sure.
come NASA's not talking about this?
Yeah.
And it's their guy. He worked for NASA from 1966 to 2012. And we're not believing that guy? Why not? What's wrong
It's
here?
literally like the coolest story to tell, and no one is telling it. Right?
probably a
Yes.
reason for that. Just
Oh,
saying.
man.
I hate to be the conspiracy theorist, but I call them like I see them. Like, I think there's a lid on this from, like, way, way, way up. That's just me, though. Just putting that out there.
That's him. Is
Guy,
that him?
let me show you. Okay, yeah, this is Richard Hoover. You know, he look, he goes down to Antarctica and he does shit. Like the
Mhm,
man is,
mhm.
you know, he's the real deal. Okay, him in the past, and that's Chandra. Oh, the thing I want to show you is coming up here. You were talking about those gills, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
Here's Richard Hoover 2 years ago, looking at a different meteorite.
Okay.
And doesn't that look familiar?
Well,
With
let's
the
see.
long oval with
Yes.
the little gills that we were just
Yeah.
looking at originally,
Yeah,
right? This is
Yeah.
a different
unmistakably.
meteorite. It was a meteorite that fell in Sri Lanka in 2012, and it also has these diatom microfossils embedded in it. They're not diatoms; they're microfossils. The oxygen isotopes are foreign to the Earth. This thing came from space. And here we have something that fell in France in 1864 with these diatom microfossils looking like that. And here's something that fell in a different rock in 2012 looking like that. I'm like, hello, astrobiologists. Like, why do I got to be the guy that tells people? It's like
Make the
it
connection. Dude, like,
this drives me nuts.
Wild.
The Russians are hip to all this. He published a paper called the Orgel Atlas of Microfossils. It was
Oh, boy.
co-published in Russian and English, dozens of photos of more than just these diatoms. The Russians know all this stuff. And so he's collaborated. Yeah, say what you want about their politics and leadership, but the scientists in Russia, boy, do they know what they're doing. And he's collaborated with them quite a bit. So when we're talking about panspermia, I argue that this is evidence of that, strong
Mhm.
evidence for
Mhm.
proving the concept of panspermia. We found dozens of meteorites with microfossils embedded in them, but there's actually even stronger evidence of panspermia. And
Give it
to
to me. Give
me,
it to me.
it seals the deal. It is, and this is when I actually would use the word prove.
Okay.
On the outside of the International Space Station, year after
Mhm.
year after year, they swabbed the window and they found microbes collected on the
tardigrades.
bunch of different ones, bunch of different types. Okay. Year after year on the outside window of the International Space Station. Now, how do they get there?
Cosmic sneeze. I don't know.
They either came from below or they rained down from above.
Sure.
Now, either way you look at it, it proves panspermia. It's either coming down or we're
It does.
flinging it off.
Sure.
It's proving the concept. So in my opinion, I don't care how it got there. Well, I do, but I'm just
It's
saying
there.
it's there. They're not fossilized. They're living
They're living, yeah.
or they're in a dormant state. You know, some bacteria can go in a dormant state and just they can be reanimated
Oh,
millions of
yeah.
years later,
They
or
can.
they could survive in a little piece of dust. So it proves it either way. It proves panspermia either way. Now,
Hmm.
there have been papers published on this, and the papers that say that it came from below say it got there by some as yet undetermined mechanism. We don't know how. We think the wind blew it up there, but we're really not sure because they cannot accept the idea that it came from above. Now, Chandra Wickramasinghe, this whole word panspermia was popularized by these two guys.
Okay.
The only reason why we're talking about panspermia today is because of these two guys. On the left is Professor Chandra Wickramasinghe. He was born in he has Sri Lankan heritage, but he lives in England. He went to England at a very young age to study under this guy, Sir Fred Hoyle, who was one of the most famous scientists of the 20th century.
Mhm.
Now, Fred Hoyle is no longer with us, but Chandra is, and he was in the film. because he was talking about this other meteorite with stuff. But these two guys found E. coli floating around in space. Okay, they've published
What?
they've published dozens of research papers showing that there's organic matter and life just floating around everywhere in space. This is the reason why we talk about panspermia. It's because they didn't invent the term, but they're the ones popularizing the term throughout the 20th century. They're the ones we owe all the credit to for getting everybody excited about this idea. They're doing the research, they're finding this stuff, and this it's amazing to me. The more I kept learning about this, I'm like, God, this makes me so
For real,
angry,
yeah. Yes.
doesn't it? Like
Yes.
these are the actual people finding this kind of stuff. So that's what gets me so fired up on all this.
Like, like if you had a list of wild shit that you found out, that's on the list. And if no one's talking about it, then what the hell are we even doing? What are we doing?
And how is it holding up like our advancement as a society and just as a planet? Like the
As an
things we
understanding of the
know.
species, you
Yeah,
know?
how far behind are we because of, I mean, just practices like this, and not just with Mars, but with everything. I mean, like we were just saying, everyone's got their own little territory that they're researching, and like we're finding this same thing everywhere. So it's a virus.
So to bring it back to Mars for a second, that Orgueil meteorite,
Mhm.
which fell in France in 1864, that had the diatom microfossils in it. The isotopics signature matches the composition of Mars. That's why it is uh, considered to be of Martian origin. If and scientists, even mainstream scientists, fully admit that Earth and Mars have been swapping spit for millennia,
Okay.
for
Makes
eons.
sense. Sure,
Okay,
sure.
so I guess it's just then which had life develop on the planet first, and all the evidence suggests that Mars actually had life develop on its planet before Earth. Mars was Earth-like before Earth was Earth-like.
Okay.
Mars was a blue planet way back when Earth was just this hell, just
Yeah.
volcanoes everywhere, different atmosphere. We couldn't live on a planet, we couldn't live on Earth way back in the day, like billions of years ago. But Mars was actually habitable. Mars had a thick atmosphere. It had oceans, lakes, and rivers,
Mhm.
and it had it long before Earth, and it had it for a very long time. So the question then is, well, if it had all that, if Mars was a blue planet, what do we think of when we hear this word blue planet? We think of life. What
Mhm.
life could have developed there? And there are pyramids, but there's this microbial stuff which is still so contested and controversial that it's a harder sell to talk about pyramids seriously with scientists when they're so stuck on this microbial life issue. But there's something for everybody with Mars. I'm just trying to put the whole picture out there because I think no one piece of evidence is really much to move the needle on anything. You really have to understand the entire history of Mars, and that's why I say Mars is a crime scene. There's a lot that happened to it. There's a lot that was there. There's a lot that's still there. But once you start analyzing all this data, then it starts to tell a very different story of Mars. And I don't know. I grew up on Star Wars and Star Trek. I just find it incredibly fascinating because
Sure, sure.
you guys know just through studying this ancient history stuff on here on Earth, like we want to know where we came from. We want to know what happened back in the day. Was there an intelligent, advanced civilization here on this Earth?
Mhm.
What's up with these UFOs? What the heck is going on? We want to know,
Mhm.
right? And Mars, the way I look at Mars is, I think most people look at Mars like they would Antarctica. What do we know about Antarctica? It's got a lot of snow and ice, not
Yeah, we
much
don't know
else,
a lot.
Yeah, we
right?
know very little about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mars, I think most people consider more like Antarctica, just kind of like a wasteland of a space.
Sure.
What is
Harsh
what is there to
environment.
talk about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am proposing that Mars is actually, from an American-centric point of view here, Mars is much more like Europe.
Okay.
It's most likely where we came from, and it has a lot of rich cultural history.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to the planet. It is clear to me that an intelligent civilization once inhabited Mars, and through the work of the remote viewers and metaphysical analysis and myths and legends that say humans came from Mars, maybe that's our origin point. I'm using Europe as maybe not quite the most accurate example, but it's just like when I remember being in high school wondering why the hell I'm reading about British history.
Right.
Yeah.
I was a stupid kid that I didn't understand British history is American history. Just
Yes.
it started before America, right?
Mhm.
That's what Mars
Right.
is. And
Yeah.
that's how we can look at it that way if we choose to. So getting back to Graham Hancock, like why is he writing about pyramids? Oh my God, is there anything to this? And yes, there's original Viking photographs showing these kinds of things. But in the years since, now we have the benefit of advanced resolution photography showing things that do not look like volcanoes to me.
Sure.
I think it would be disingenuous to try to characterize them as just a hill or a mountain or whatever the hell NASA wants to call it. We can
Mhm.
get into that if you want. I don't know how much time you guys have tonight. I can talk forever about this stuff, so please stop me.
We have 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
We got a 2-hour limit.
Okay, so where should we
Fill
take
it
it
I have
from?
a lot of
fast.
questions.
I know.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I wanna go where you guys want to go because otherwise I'll just ramble on.
Let's go with, I gave you some homework, did I not?
Oh yeah, my what?
Oh yeah, that's it's that time. It's that
Oh,
time.
sure.
Universal truth. Like a good one-liner. I wanna know what's getting you through all
Mhm.
this Mars stuff.
Well, I think the thing that immediately came to mind when you mentioned it the other day was, and I didn't come up with this. I don't know who did, but you probably heard this before. Just be the change you want to see in the world.
Mm.
So,
I use that too.
Mhm.
in this very divisive political climate, I I've got my thoughts and opinions just like everybody else, but I don't want any of that to contaminate the work that I do with Mars. I don't want people to not like me based on what I think about a societal issue, whatever.
Mhm.
I wish more people would do that. There's so many people who are just assholes online. It's hard to just like bite your lip and just like, okay, let's calm down. Let's try to handle this a little bit more diplomatically. But I think it's entirely necessary because the world's coming apart.
Yeah.
Um, and I only get to work on this Mars stuff because uh, just because my circumstances in life allow me to. So it's a luxury I'm afforded, but it is something I feel so strongly about because I feel like more people need to know about this stuff, and I want to go to bat for these marginalized people, these Mars researchers, which I think have just not they haven't been given a fair shake. So I want to try to change. I want to try to change the narrative, and that really requires to play an active role in this. I don't. I didn't have any interest in becoming a public figure and doing podcasts and doing films and doing YouTube or anything like that. But I started to see that there's so many people who publish these scientists. They'll publish a paper and think that they've changed the world. Like no one's reading the paper. There's years of messaging that you need to do this stuff. I can
Yep.
help you with that, and I think I'm trying to establish a good reputation in the eyes of the public so that people don't decide things based on facts and statistics. They decide things based on how they feel. Like they've done studies on this, right?
Infuriating.
Yeah.
Right.
That's infuriating to
So
me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to present this evidence, but I first feel like I need to establish myself as a credible representative of the
Sure.
material. So I want to try to be squeaky clean with, what I post online. I want to
Mhm.
try to make it relevant for this work. And, the world's not black or white. I don't think we really I don't think we should try to characterize every single issue as this or that, yes or no, black or white, whatever. Two things can be two things can be true at the same time. NASA does great work, but they're also pretending like all this other stuff doesn't exist. So I don't want to completely, you know, demonize NASA.
Sure.
So nuance is important. Sorry, I rambled on a
Yes.
little bit long, but I'm so that's what I'm trying to bring forth.
Yeah, and I think, having seen a fair amount of your material, I think you do a good job of that, if I will
Absolutely.
say so. Because it is all these things are very polarizing, and it's also very easy to be a finger pointer, which is that's easy, and it can help
Yeah.
explain certain things, but it doesn't, like you said, it really doesn't help move the needle because alongside some poor choices, certain institutions have also done very pertinent and fundamental and essential research. So, yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
honestly, I'm pissed off after everything that you have told me so far. I'm pissed off because one thing I'm extremely
Yeah, I felt like you feel right now. That's why
yeah,
had to do this.
I'm pretty passionate about I'm going to be an anthropologist someday, and I'm pretty passionate about just having access to information about where we come from. I don't appreciate barriers to any of our past history and our ancestry, and like for purposes of ego, politics, funding, stuff like that. I really have a really low tolerance for that because I think that the human story and our existence how is anything more important than that to me? Nothing is more
Mhm.
important than that because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from. And I think that is like the age-old conundrum for humanity is what are we? Why are we here? And, where did we come from? So, yeah, I'm a little bit pissed off right now, Brian. I'm not gonna lie.
I
Yeah.
know. I think you're feeling exactly like I think but I think that's shared among those of us who are curious about these things. It's like there is an established paradigm
Mhm.
that needs to change, and
Yeah.
maybe it's one funeral at a time, I don't really know, but this is why it's so exciting.
Well, 50 years later, like,
This
we're coming into that, right? So, sorry,
Yeah,
people.
I know.
Yeah.
So, I'm I think Mars is it should be included in this ancient history topic. Okay, we're talking about pyramids here on
Mhm.
planet Earth, and we're not exactly sure where they came from.
Mhm.
Jeffrey Drum, Land of Chem, he said on Matt Bell's podcast, he says he considers the pyramids in Egypt to be representative of a type 1 civilization. Do you guys know the Kardashev scale?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the people who don't, if you would lay that out, that would be great.
Yeah. Type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1 is a civilization that has complete control over their planet's resources.
Mhm.
Type 2, complete control of the solar system, harnessing all of the energy the solar system has to offer. And type 3 with the galaxy. So humans
Sure.
right now are estimated to be what, like a point 0.7,
Yeah.
not quite
Yeah.
all the way type 1. But Jeffrey Drum says these pyramids arguably have such precise construction methods, and given what he thinks that they were used for, to be chemical factories and produce and attract lightning to produce chemicals, to do all the to make metal tools and to make chemicals for agriculture and things like that.
Sure.
If you were coming to a new planet, you can't bring all your factories. You got to start making stuff when you get there. And if you
Yes.
have the resources necessary to do that, he's talking about stone circles being more primitive versions of these lightning attractors. It's where the ground is more fertile because they're trying to attract lightning to make the ground more fertile. So if it all comes down to agriculture, like that's a very practical sense, a practical explanation for these great structures. Um, so we're seeing pyramids here. We're not really sure where they came from, and maybe it was an alien civilization that came here and built them, and we don't know. They could be a lot older. I was just listening to Bob Grenier on Matt Bell's podcast, and he's talking about how carbon-14 dating is no longer reliable.
Mm.
Bob Grenier is very smart. I have trouble keeping up with him, but I'll take his word for it because I know he knows what he's talking about. So these pyramids could be a lot older, than 4,000 to 5,000 years. They could be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. If you want something to last a long time, make it out of stone. All right. So, and I'm saying we have evidence of pyramids on Mars. We have evidence of stone circles on Mars. Maybe they did the same thing on Earth that they did on Mars. And
Right.
they did it. Maybe they started on Mars and came to Earth and had to do it all over again. Because
Maybe they
Mars,
left Earth and went to Mars and came back when they could.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
And so if you guys entertain, Sarah, we were talking about channeling the other day. If you guys
Yeah.
entertain channelers or remote viewers or the metaphysical or these legends and myths that talk about how people came from Mars to Earth,
Sure.
maybe that helps inform where we came from. Okay. So I don't want to go too deep into that right now because we're still here in more practical uh subject matter. Like if you want, Jacqueline, I think it might be good to go over the fossil stuff because
Yes,
I
please.
didn't get to do microbes and fossils on map. I didn't get to do that recently. I would really like to do it now because I
Yes,
think it's
please.
also
Yeah.
awesome and it's
Yes,
easy and
please.
it's practical. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. So let me share my screen. Actually, yeah, I got a presentation here. Presentation screen. Here we go. Window. Boom. Is this it? Yes. All right. So this is on NASA's website right now. Scientists don't expect to find living things currently thriving on Mars. Instead, they're looking for signs of life that existed long ago, when Mars was warmer and covered with water.
Okay.
So that's what if you go to NASA right now, that's what it says. They're not looking for life right now. Everyone thinks they are, but they're not. And here it is. They're looking for signs of life that existed long ago. Now, Sarah and Jacqueline, what does that sound like? What would evidence of life that lived long ago look like?
Fossils?
Microbial fossils.
Yes, fossils, right? We pick
Yes.
up a
Yeah.
fossil here on Earth. We don't say that's life.
Wow.
We say
yeah.
that used to be life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, what else could they be referring to? Like
well,
nothing.
what last year they had this big press conference. They say, "Oh, we're really excited because we think we found signs of ancient life on Mars, but we're not really sure. But we're really excited, but we're not really sure." It's so stupid. They found this leopard spotted rock, just a rock that had these funny little spots on it,
Okay.
which was that it indicates that microbes were there and left those spots.
Like
Maybe
like a almost like a
like a
lichen or something like that.
it's all geology now, but it was like the
Sure.
spots were only created by microbes,
Okay.
and they're like 90% sure. But they had this
All
huge
right.
press conference, and I'm like, guys, this is such a nothing burger compared to the rest of the stuff that you found that is way more
Right.
obvious. The stuff that we just got done talking about. Okay. So that's the best we're going to get from NASA. But if you can just go with me here, we're gonna see stuff that is now visible to the naked eye. We don't need microscopes anymore. Okay. But I want to emphasize that if NASA is saying that they're looking for signs of ancient life, they've already found it. They're just not
Yeah.
talking about it. All right. So anyway, you get me fired up. I'm sorry, I'm fired up. I get fired up for this stuff.
I love it.
Okay, fossils. And we just talked about Alan Hills. Bill made such. This is a microfossil, but Bill Clinton, talked about it. Made such um, big news. And I think that's another reason why NASA doesn't really want to step in it anymore, because they had the Viking life detection blunder. It is, it isn't, it's inconclusive. Then they had this Allen Hills meteorite thing. We think it is, but some scientists aren't really sure. So there's blah blah blah. So NASA just doesn't want to get involved anymore with any big public relations thing. It's sort of what else is going on here. Okay. We talked about, this is Richard Hoover. He found these diatoms in the Orgilla meteorite, co-published in Russia. That's why it has this big Russian title on it, Orgilla Atlas of Microfossils.
Cool.
You can go find here those things we just took a look at, all those things. I should have just brought this up before. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Look at those things.
Yeah.
There you go. Two different meteorites that fell 100 years apart, over 100 years apart.
Very cool.
Okay.
It doesn't get any more concrete than that for me.
No. Yeah.
I mean,
this is why I'm so pro panspermia. I'm like, we've seen it, we've done it. Okay. So question is, how do you identify, ladies, how would you identify a fossil?
Oh, it depends on
with my eyes.
how big it is. Yeah.
Boom. Say it's big enough to see with the naked eye.
With my peepers.
That's it. Right? Step one, look at
it. Very technical, Brian. Very technical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really know if there's a step two. Okay.
Sure.
Now,
no, you're right.
This is so much fun. I'm having such a fun time. Okay, guys. Have you heard of something called a trace fossil?
Yes.
You have?
I have,
No.
yes.
I have not.
I've read about them.
What is a trace fossil?
Isn't it no, you tell me. I'm not going to say because I don't know for sure. I have read about them. I've read about a lot of things, so.
That's okay. I'm going to show you in a picture. Everybody has seen a trace fossil.
Okay, I was going to say it's the impression.
Yes.
I was going to say an impression, yeah.
You knew it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not the dinosaur skeleton.
No, it's the impression of what was at the time. So, yeah, I've read about it in terms of like when they find footprints that get filled in. Yeah. Sarah, you and I have covered that before. Yeah.
What I'm showing you arguably does not require some advanced degree. All right.
No.
So
I hear that's a dinosaur's foot. Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody call Jeff Goldblum.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is why I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what people feel about NASA. Unless NASA comes right out and says it, then there's a contingent of people who just don't want to buy anything, believe anything you're telling them. Okay. Sure. Well, NASA didn't say so therefore you're wrong, mister.
Correct. Yeah.
I get it, which is why I have to slow walk people into it, because there's just stuff that they haven't seen. And I'm like, okay. Anyway, so trace fossil. Boom. Now, question is, what would a worm footprint look like?
A trail.
A line, a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen them at the beach.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So
yeah,
here Okay. Now, one of these is on Mars and one of these is on Earth.
Mhm.
Can you guess which is which?
Left is
Nope.
Earth.
Sarah?
They look the same to me. I'm gonna say that I'll just say the right one's Earth, but I think the right one's Mars and the left one's Earth, if I'm being honest.
Okay. The
It's
I
hard to tell, that's the point, though.
That is the point. So even if you're wrong, it's okay. It only shows how close of a match this is, all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I fell for it because I picked left being Earth because the right one was red. See what I
It's
did
okay.
there? Yeah.
So we can see these little squigglies here, right? These little
Yes.
squigglies,
Yes.
all right?
Yeah.
And we're looking at these little squigglies.
Yes.
I am trying to this was found. You got to hand it to these Mars researchers, Barry DiGregorio, the author who did the biography on Gil Levin and the Viking history. He also, in his spare time, goes through rover photographs to see if he can find any fossils, and he's found a few of them, and this being
Mhm.
one of them. So I drove up to Buffalo, New York, to go meet with him, and he actually has trace fossils that just look just like these on a shoreline nearby his house that we went and go filmed at, so I could have this comparison.
Yeah.
Um,
That's where I've
but
seen them at the
these
beach.
Right, okay. So these little squigglies. Now, somebody say, "Oh, these little squigglies, what's the big deal?" Like, we're talking about finding signs of ancient life, all right?
Mhm.
Here is not proof, but evidence.
Mhm.
This is
Right.
what a trace fossil of a worm would look like. Rover photographed it. Why aren't we having any paleontologists seriously take a look at this stuff, okay? We'll come back to that
Okay.
question. All right, next example. Guys, have you heard of something called a crinoid?
No.
No.
Don't worry if you haven't. I never had either before I got into all this stuff. Okay? A crinoid
Oh,
is
he's
a
hurting.
sea
That's cool.
creature.
Yeah.
It's like a flowery starfish.
Yeah.
And what we see here on the left is a fossil of a crinoid. All right? There are crinoid fossils all over the place. All right? They find them everywhere. They're very common. Okay? Now, thing I want to and it's not a plant, it's actually an animal, but it kind of looks like a plant, and it
Mhm.
has this little what do you say, a little trunk or stalk or something like that that sort of comes up, it attaches to the ground, and it sort of comes up. We're looking at it sort of profile here sideways. And then right as it gets to here, it starts splitting, starts bifurcating.
Right.
Okay?
A
I'm
fractal
highlighting this
pattern.
bifurcation because what we're going to look at next. Oh, another example here. Okay, what we're seeing is that root, that stem, that stalk, but then you see just a hint of bifurcation on each one of
Mhm.
these examples. Can you see the hint of bifurcation?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, do you see it?
No.
Okay, what we're seeing here. We'll
What am
start
I
with
looking for?
run on the this coming up here. Oops, here. Um, This is coming up here, and then right here, it starts to bifurcate there and there.
Okay.
Here's the
Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah.
single piece, but then it splits off in these two things. Now over here, this
Right.
one's it's starting curved, but it's coming up here and here. Just a hint of bifurcation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the rest of the fossil is gone, but we see this stem and then the hint of the bifurcation. Okay, which is which?
Oh,
Earth or Mars? No
Yep.
clue.
yeah.
No clue.
I think the right one's Mars and the left one's Earth. Damn, I was
Okay.
wrong.
Okay.
Wild.
So
They're
this is
so similar, though.
This is a legitimate photograph, and it's not much. And you might think, well, is that just part of the rock? Is it just the rock that has a funny looking texture that just so happens to have these little plates? It was just a hint of bifurcation, and so I'm not saying that I think it looks like a crinoid. I am listening to the experts. Okay. And for the film, I interviewed Professor Richard Hoover, NASA astrobiologist, who talked about this. And the guy down in Alabama, there's another scientist down there, Richard Keyes, who has been collecting crinoid fossils all his life. Okay. And he could name all the different species of crinoids. He's got thousands of these things in his storage facility. But I'm like, okay, I want to run this picture past a few other people who know nothing. So I emailed this picture to a paleontologist who specializes in sea creatures
Okay.
at the University of Cincinnati. Guy's name is Carlton Brett, I think. And I asked him, hey, what do you think of this? What does this look like to you? Okay. This guy, Carlton Brett. And that was his response.
Okay. Where'd you get this
There's the
specimen?
there's the
that.
okay.
Where did it?
I like that.
I did my
Funny
homework.
story.
This guy doesn't know me. He
Mhm.
clearly doesn't know where I got this image. I sent it to him. Didn't tell him anything. I said, what do you think of this? That's
Sure.
what he says. That's good enough for me to say, hey, you know what? That thing's arguably that's a fossil because the guy who specializes in those kind of fossils thinks it's a fossil.
He's literally looked at
Yeah.
thousands of them. Thousands.
Okay, that's good enough for me to say, hey, NASA, why aren't we taking a closer look at that thing and talking
Yes.
about that and getting other
Yes.
paleontologists to look at it? Now,
Yes.
there's more to this story here. They discovered this. Now, you might think that they would take a look at this and say, that's interesting. Let's see if we can get some other camera angles on this here to analyze this further. But in reality, it's actually quite tragic what happened. NASA, the Opportunity rover this was Opportunity rover this time. It has this thing called a rock abrasion tool.
Okay.
And it's just a little grinder that goes and grinds the surface of rocks to get into it so that they can analyze they can collect the powder and analyze what it's made out of, okay? The composition, but they need to grind it up, okay? They took this and they used the rock abrasion tool and ground the whole surface down to nothing.
Why?
And there are photos of this. And the sequence of photographs, you can see what it looked like before and after. So this potential fossil here is something
Got
that they
destroyed.
completely destroyed. Now, the question is why? Why did they do that? And I asked Professor Hoover this, and you can see it in the film. And he says, because he wondered the same thing. Why did you take the rock abrasion tool to this thing that looks like a crinoid fossil? And the NASA scientist on the other end of the phone, he said, well, we were grinding into it to see if it contained any carbon,
Okay.
which is a nonsense answer
Mm-hmm.
because fossils would not have any carbon. It's like, this is what Professor Richard Hoover says. He's like, it's like smashing a dinosaur skull open to see if it has any brains inside still.
Who are these people who did that? Oh, wow.
So it's almost that sounds, ooh,
I
wow.
mean,
Why would they do that?
if I
Now,
saw something and I was hoping that I didn't see something, the best way to take care of that situation is to get rid of something, right?
so
Not to accuse
I'm
people of
just
anything, but
I'm just reporting on this,
this
there
is
are the
very highly
photos.
suspect.
And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, you can't publicly access any of the Opportunity rover photographs anymore. NASA took down all the Opportunity photographs. And Spirit and Opportunity photographs, raw image archive online, they took those offline after my movie came out. I don't, maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. Okay.
Wow. Do you have all of them? Did you save them all?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I'm
Of
actually
course
gonna
he
be
did.
doing an
What?
extended video just on this that shows a bit more
Perfect.
photos here
Good.
for YouTube later. Okay, so so this was a big deal. Um, but you see, it requires a little bit of education. Nobody knows what a crinoid is, right? Nobody knows what
Mm.
trace fossil is except for Jacqueline. And very few people know. But let's get back to trace fossils for just a second. Okay. Now, there are marine animals right now who burrow into rocks and
Mhm.
make holes
Yes.
in rocks. Okay. And
Usually
again,
like often like softer rocks like sandstone or
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. So these are marine rocks. Again, we have another comparison here, which is which.
The left is Earth
I wanna
and
say
the
left
right
is
is
Earth.
Mars.
Okay. Yes, that's right.
Ooh, got it.
Got one.
But seriously, really,
They look so
what's the
they're the
difference?
same damn
There's no
thing. Like,
difference.
Any
Yeah.
paleontologist should be able to say, "Hey, you know what? That with my eyes looks
Mhm.
like
Right.
a fossil, a trace fossil." That's all it takes. We're just regular people with using common sense to be like, "Oh my gosh, that
right.
looks like that. Certainly worthy of a closer look." We need to be investigating these things a lot more closely.
Mhm.
And there are more, but I don't have anything prepared for tonight, but that's just to get us started. So when NASA says they're looking for signs of ancient life, they've already photographed it. Why are we not making a bigger deal about this?
Hello.
I've vetted all of these photographs. That's the thing. I don't just take these things from people who say, "Hey, you gotta look at this." No, I have to go make sure I go find the source of it.
Sure.
And I do that with every single thing. I vet everything. So, and I've got source URLs for everything. So anyway, uh,
I'm
I,
pissed.
yeah,
I'm
man.
laughing, but I'm actually really pissed. Okay.
It's just a staggering amount of evidence, and I mean, it's so damning that, like, it just seems so obvious. I don't
Okay,
I'm with you. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it.
I'm just gonna say my piece because it's like I need to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
Let it
Um,
out, girl.
you know what I'm like. Okay, admittedly, of course I'm interested in Mars. Like I said at the beginning when you asked me, what do you know?" I can't tell you that I technically know a lot. I have read in passing, out of interest, lots of articles, watched videos on YouTube of this or that. I have lots of varied interests. Space is not one of my top interests, but it's in there. And so I do and have had some exposure. But then I also kind of quip to you the Sarah and I have a running joke like every other week they find life on Mars, right? So it, what comes down the pipe is a bit of a joke to me because it's really difficult for me to take it seriously as a person who needs some sort of a proof or evidence, like the way that you kind of very well made the definition of both. It, so I'm gonna be honest. Like you really have changed my mind in a lot of ways about how I think about this and look at this. And my first gut reaction is I'm really mad. So thanks for that, Brian. Um, yeah, that sort of documentation, it really changes
It's
my mind.
thorough.
Yeah, it changes my mind about how I think about it and how I approach it.
Yeah, and I think you're like again, you're feeling exactly what I felt, which is why I started getting into this because I felt like there was a story here. If only somebody were, gosh darn it, somebody should do something about this. I
But
didn't.
it's
Yeah.
like they've quietly been doing some things in the background, but the shit that actually matters just gets like put in the filing cabinet. Everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" You know?
Yeah.
That's
So,
infuriating.
I felt like, uh, after I finished the documentary, I learned even more things which is why I
Mhm.
continued. I didn't have any intention on doing a YouTube channel or anything. I just wanted to do the
Mhm.
documentary and then go about my life. But I continued learning new things, and I'm like, I got to keep reporting on this stuff.
Sure.
A lot of what I showed you tonight, I learned after the film came out. So
Right.
so the documentary is sort of like the starting point. It's the whole story all in 2 hours, and it's got a kick-ass soundtrack. I wanted to be, you know, fun and entertaining to
Mhm.
watch. I got 2 dozen people in there, Avi Loeb, John Brandenburg, Richard Hoover, Robert Schock,
Yeah, it's a great lineup.
um, and others. And then the YouTube is the continuing series because there's more stuff that we learn about. Just look at John Ward. He's discovering new stuff every week, and so are other people. And
Yeah, that guy
I'm
is
gonna be.
something else. Like, how'd you find
He's a powerhouse.
He is. How did you meet him? How'd you come across him? I was interested in knowing that when I was watching the disclosure panel.
Yeah, and I got to go back to giving credit to my partner in England who sort of already knew everybody in the
Okay,
Mars community. The problem was they're all fractured. No one's working together. They're all just doing their own thing, and sometimes they
sure.
communicate, but no one's. So I really wanted to make it a point to try to get everybody together to present as
Mhm.
one unified front.
Yeah.
Um, Jean was somebody I reached out to while I was making the film because I started, my partner pointed me in his direction. For whatever reason, I couldn't get a hold of him. I think his email, we determined later that his email just wasn't working or something like that. So I wasn't actually able to get him in the film, but I'm making up for that now because I'm highlighting a lot of his work on my YouTube channel. We're collaborating basically every week on as much stuff as we possibly can. He'll
Mhm.
post something. He's finding new stuff every week,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll go in and maybe repackage it and include him on some of my videos like that. But he's been pumping out videos for probably longer than I've been doing Mars. And I'm a relative newcomer to this. I'm just looking around seeing what I can do to help everybody else who's already working on
Well,
these
that's
kinds
a
of
big
things.
thing because, like, I think with a topic like this where it is, the mainstream has neglected, right? So all the people who are interested in it, like you said, are fractured. Having someone like you that can bring them all together, that's really important because
Yes.
that's where advancement happens with the collaboration. And like you said, like there's all these people who've been working with their heads down and just trying to document what they find. Yeah,
And there was
this is wild.
there's a man there's a man named Richard Hoagland who back in
Okay,
the
then
80s,
why is that familiar to me?
Yeah.
because he was the Mars guy. He did what I'm doing now.
Okay.
He was a science journalist who, in the wake of these funny looking structures that they photographed from these Viking pictures, in the wake of all that, the face on Mars, the pyramids, he said, somebody needs to be taking a closer look at this kind of stuff. And NASA didn't want to take it seriously. So he put together an independent Mars investigative team that comprised of Dr. John Brandenburg and others to examine. He had a multidisciplinary team: physics, anthropology. I interviewed an anthropologist who's part of that original team,
Mhm.
aerospace engineer, all these different people. He's the Nick Fury of the Mars disclosure movement from the 80s and 90s. He's still with us today, but he's just not so visible. Um, but he gave presentations at the UN. He
Oh
was
wow.
an excellent communicator. He's getting up there in age. I talked with him once on the phone. I tried to get him in the film, but he's kind of got a strange ego, kind of gets in the way of things. But he was communicating all this decades ago, and I guess I'm just following in his footsteps because he's shining a light on all these different things because NASA isn't.
Mhm.
We will
Right.
is kind of the methodology here.
We're
Yeah.
all about that at the
Yeah, I'm
Institute
here
for
for it.
Natural
I'm here for it
Philosophy.
100%.
We have a common goal here. Like I love that like we're all firing on the same cylinder, no pun
Yeah.
intended, right now.
Eh,
So like That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that we're all coming to that same conclusion that
And I was happy to
someone
meet
needs to put the people together so that the research means something instead of dying in these people's basements.
Yes,
Right.
because some
Yeah.
people just don't have it. You know, they're prolific researchers, documentation, archival, whatever, but they don't know how to access the media. They don't know how to convey what they've collected to other people.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
you know, so it's really important. The collaboration aspect is so, so important. So, yeah. I mean, if you're out
Yeah.
here converting souls one at a time, you got me.
It
You're
it
doing
Doing the
good
Lord's
work.
work.
Yeah.
like, I really do appreciate, and we'll probably have to wrap it up, but, I really do appreciate your time talking to me about this kinda stuff. On the disclosure live streams, we've been doing a lot more show and tell,
Sure.
uh, try to,
But that's good. That's
you
good
know
for the people to see. People need to see it. I I needed to
Yeah.
see I needed to see the biological evidence.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, that's
That
very
spoke to
important.
you, I bet.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, girl. You know I'm all fired up about that. Because that's probably the most important to me. I would not be able to get on board down the line
Without that.
as completely or as with as much as
Mm.
of an open mind without that. That's
I know, I
something
felt the
that's
same way. I'm like,
fundamental.
"No way. No way, Graham Hancock. There's not pyramids on Mars.
That's what
That's
I'm saying. Like, I can't jump in
ridiculous."
right there. I need to go back.
Absurd. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go
Right.
back. Yeah.
I get it. I get it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I have one final question, and this
Yes.
one's just for fun.
Sure.
What, other than your own, what's your favorite Mars movie?
Oh, good. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Well, we talk about, Mission to Mars. The Martian was good.
Mm.
Um,
There's some Matt Damon potatoes. I'm growing some Matt Damon potatoes out there right now. I think about it every time.
okay. I'm gonna pick one that's a little bit more obscure and dorky.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. Back in the mid or I guess the early 2000s, 2005, 2006, there was a movie that came out that had Carl Urban and The Rock in it, based
Mm.
off of the hit video game Doom.
Okay.
Okay. You know, alien base, or rather, base on Mars is overtaken by aliens, and they got to go shoot everything up. So, uh, I love playing that game back in the '90s, and the movie's not that great,
In
but
the
it's
90s, The
on
Rock was
Mars,
solid, right? He was solid back then, for sure.
and
Oh
Choice.
yeah.
it's got an R rating, so there's some pretty cool
Sure.
action sequences in there, and it all takes place on Mars. So,
Out of,
look,
curiosity, what sort of film work did you do before you took this on? You said
yeah.
short
Short
film?
short films, yeah, but before Mars, I was involved with an entirely different subject,
Mm.
trying to communicate on something that I felt needed, a little bit more, or better public relations on, but it was really just in that short 5 to 15-minute long
Okay.
range kinda stuff.
Okay.
Uh, so this was something that I just, when you feel compelled to do something,
Mhm.
you just gotta go for it, and it doesn't really make any sense. I'm like, I remember just getting on the plane the very first time, like, "Okay, I guess I'm flying across the country
Guess I'm
to go
doing
talk
this.
to this
God
guy
damn.
about the face on Mars." The very
Yeah,
first interview I did was with Mark Carlotto about the face on Mars. I mean, I was jumping right in, but,
sure.
we'll have to talk about that at some point in time, but there's a whole lot that people don't know about the face on Mars. There's more to it than it just looks like a face.
Yes.
There's
Right.
more to it than
Yeah.
that. A
There's
lot
more to
more
all
to
of it
it.
than the sensationalism, right? So
Yes.
mhm.
Right. There's a place
So,
inside where you go in there and there's a little alien lady and a countdown and then you go back. Like Mission to Mars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They go
right.
in, it's
Yeah.
just all white in there. There's more to it. Like,
I would say if I've learned anything, and I learned it from Sarah, actually, so I'll say it because 'cause it'll make her proud. Um, when you find yourself doing those things where you're like, God damn, what am I doing? That's when you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing. Like that's when
Yeah.
you're in your purpose and you just didn't like it's like your conscious self did not decide. You just got taken along. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Let me ask you two real quick. First of all, two questions. What simply what got each of you into this space of discovery?
God, that's a long
Ricardo. It's a long.
together doing this podcast and part of the Institute
Well,
for
just your
Natural
general
Philosophy.
your general interest in this subject matter.
I was born this way.
Okay.
Same.
I was born this way. I was raised by my father was a prolific reader, and I just kind of grew up reading the books that were on his shelf. And,
Mm.
probably getting exposed to material that was well advanced in my years. And he was just always very liberal and encouraging about me reading about things that I can remember reading his Eric von Daniken off the shelf when I'm like 9 or 10, and coming to him and saying, "Dad, what the hell? What is this?"
Wow.
And so
Okay.
he was just very open about talking about it with me without kind of like forming my opinions for me. He would just talk
Mhm.
through it with me. So I just kind of was lucky that way. I guess I had exposure from a young age. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Just,
Yeah, my dad gave me that History is Wrong by Eric von Daniken
yeah.
and Mysteries of the Mind by the Edgar Casey book. Like it's old as hell. Like
Mhm.
it's old, it's falling apart. Like I had this spiritual thing going on where I had a bunch of weird like prophetic dreams and like actually watched the stuff happen after I dreamed about it, like in real time. And yeah, when I started going down that path, my dad, here's these books, and
Got something for
I knew
you.
he was into like ancient aliens and stuff like that, but the Edgar Casey stuff shocked me because they're very religious, and so
And
yeah.
and quickly, one more time, Sarah, tell me about the Mars dream you had. Was it a Mars dream?
Well, yeah,
Well,
I think it's tough to say. You never really know until like, especially when you dream about something that's like going to happen. You don't ever know until it's unfolding in front of you. So when it's something from the past, it's hard to confirm, and all you have is your own speculation. But um, I don't think I've ever talked about it on here before. But yeah, there was a guy on a pinkish reddish planet. Um, and there was like this DNA spiral looking thing that went from Mars to Earth, and he was putting these things in these like a maybe like a conveyor belt table or something, and he was like either putting something in or taking something out, and then he'd put it on the little DNA thing and it'd spin it down to Earth. So like
wild. Hello.
yeah, it
Look.
just like to me it's like it was close to Earth. It was pinky reddish glowing planet. Um, and like the containers, it makes me think of how like the body is a container for the soul, and like
Mm. Wow.
It's the helix for me, the DNA helix.
yeah, the
Right.
helix was like yeah.
That's
Wow.
interesting.
I painted it, and then I made an AI, not an AI. It was before AI came out. Um, I made like a computer generated thing that I slapped together just to put it. I needed to see it. Just let me reckon about this for a second.
Mm,
And I'm gonna see if I can find that and add it into the episode. So,
Cool.
do it.
Awesome.
if I can, if I can find it, a lot
Yeah.
of that stuff's lost. So
Okay, at some point, I do want to request that we have a part 2 because I'm going to need some
yeah,
more.
for sure.
I'm going to need some more.
We'll have a part 2
Yeah.
and the Mars panel. The Mars panel goes on. We're fully committed. I'm fully committed to the Mars panel. And
Well, now I
I
feel like I
think
need
the
to go back
thing,
and watch the Mars panel, which I already watched again with this fresh mindset, like fresh set of thoughts. Yeah.
There's that spiral again.
This damn
You
thing.
revisit stuff with a greater understanding.
Yeah.
Like, it's a theme. So
Wild. I'm
follow
really
it.
pumped that you came, Brian. Thank you so much for spending
Yeah, Sam, this was
the
fun.
evening with us. Yeah. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about, right?
I know, and there's so much more, y'all. Like, there's so much more. Like, definitely be sure to check out Brian's film. Like,
Mhm.
if you want it all laid out, go there. Like, start there. Would you agree, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
Start there
Yeah.
and then hit the YouTube channel, and like, there's so much to learn about this topic, and it's such a like it's an important topic because it involves all of us. So
Yeah, and I wanted the film to be relatable, so I tried my best to make it as hip, as entertaining as possible,
Mhm.
because this subject matter has a lot of baggage with it.
Sure.
Mars is running in a deficit of credibility right now, and I'm trying to change that to bring it in the black because we've got 50 years of narrative that just doesn't do it any favors.
Yeah.
yeah, it needs a gentle nudge. I agree. Yeah.
Damn. I got so many
Jacqueline,
side
you
quests
good?
going on.
You gonna make it? Are you okay?
I am. My vacation's over, girl. I'm back to behind the camera tomorrow, taking pictures. Sad. It's all
Fun
right.
times over.
Fun time's over. Yep.
You got any more questions for
No,
Brian?
no, ma'am. Thank you
I mean,
so
I do,
much,
but like
Brian.
nothing that we can get into.
Sure. Yes, I actually have like 50 questions for Brian, but we're gonna have to save them.
Part
Gonna
2
have to
next
Same.
save
time,
them.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Part 2, the
Mhm.
sequel.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your knowledge, and the things that you've accumulated is truly fascinating. I mean, that's
Mhm.
some groundbreaking stuff. And I want to mention to check out our newest issue of Pharos magazine. You may do so for free at institutefornaturalphilosophy.org/magazine. It'll take you straight to it. Right now, it's a downloadable version. We're working on a print version, and yeah, new
Yeah.
episodes every other Wednesday. News every Sunday at 11:11. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Have an awesome week.
Bye.
Bye.